name is Beck and welcome to my reading wrap up for the month of October. I didn't read a ton this month and I'm still currently reading a couple of things as well, so I might just start out with the things that I finished and then I'll go into what I'm currently reading. So this is probably going to be a fairly short wrap up. To start it off, I finished Arusha and the End of Time by Roxani Chokshi. This is a middle grade story and I got to it at the end of September, early October, and because of my up and down reading slump, it took me a while to read this even though it is middle grade and quite quick. It is about Aru, and she is a girl who likes to make up imaginary stories and imaginary reasons, kind of lying, I guess, to extrapolate reasoning so that people don't bully her and to push people away. And her mum is also a single mum, and so she lives at a museum. Her mum's a museum curator, and the reason that this involves fantasy is because Aru does something under peer pressure and then she causes almost the end of time, essentially, and has to go on a quest to fix it, and that involves monsters and gods and very interesting creatures along the way. I liked the way that this had an excellent premise, and the beginning was really fun and I was very much grabbed, but the momentum and the intrigue for me burned out between halfway through to the end. While I still liked it, I think I gave it a 4. It could have been a 3 or 3.5 stars, but I'm being generous because it's middle grade. And honestly, I don't feel like there's anything necessarily bad about this that should drag the rating down. It's just my personal enjoyment didn't latch onto this book, and I found it quite haphazard and very quick. So a lot of events happened very one after another, and you didn't get a lot of time to sit with the characters and kind of ruminate on those things. And I understand that I'm very much older than the category this book is meant for, so I'm taking that into consideration as well. Honestly, I'm not sure at the moment if I'll continue with this. I don't know if I'll keep this book, but for what it was, I did enjoy it. I gave it around a 4 stars, 3 to 4. I put it in that category, and if you want to pick up a middle grade that's really fun and fast paced, I would recommend this absolutely, but it's just not particularly my favorite book by any means. So I did enjoy it, but that's all it really was. In addition to that, I listened to an audiobook for Sunreach by Brandon Sanderson. This is the book that's after Starsight, so it's book 2.1, I think, in the Skyward Flight series. So obviously it starts with Skyward, it then follows on with Starsight, and then after that we've got Cytonic coming out in November. Before Cytonic comes out, we've got 2 novellas, so Sunreach is one of them, and then there's Redawn, I think, which is the next one that's out late October, which I haven't got to yet, and I'm filming this wrap up before that comes out, so no doubt it will be in my November wrap up, but I digress. Sunreach is a book that follows Starsight directly, so if I say anything about what the plot involves, it will directly spoil Starsight and Skyward for you, so I'm not going to go into talking about what the plot is. I'm just going to talk about what my feelings are, and I have a whole separate spoiler review for Sunreach if you want to go and discuss things more in depth with me. So Sunreach I found okay. It had a collaborative author involved, Jancy Patterson, and because of her involvement there were parts of the story that I liked, but then there were also parts that I really disliked, and there was a love interest in there. And historically, Brandon Sanderson, in Skyward at least, hasn't written the book with a romance focus to it, and that's one of the things that I really loved about this series. But when it went into this novella, there was a romance plot that was quite heavily involved, and that frustrated me a little bit because sometimes it seemed out of character for these people, but at the same time I guess I could understand why they're forming connections like that when there's such high tension. So usually with Brandon Sanderson I give him a 4 stars, a 5 stars. He's one of my favourites if you weren't aware, but this one only got a 3.5 from me because of the different tonal style of it, and I'm hoping that with Redawn I like it a little bit more because we follow an interesting character called Alanik in that book. And then obviously Cytonic, I want my ratings to go up again because this series for me started on Skyward, which was a 5, it went to Starsight, which was a 4.5, and now this novella is a 3.5, so all the ratings are okay, but I really want to love it more than I am. So Sunreach again was just an okay read, and I haven't found anything that is like a new favorite. I think 2021 is really a year that my reading flatlined a little bit in the middle, and it's quite unfortunate because I just want to find new favorite reads. And now, while this is not necessarily a new favorite, I read the next book in the Witcher series, The Blood of Elves, and I really enjoyed it. There were a few things about the tone and the dialogue that felt kind of overdone and in some aspects a little bit cartoonish or like they were performing to an audience, but I think in line with the writing style as well well as the translation. That might just be something that got maybe lost in translation, or it's supposed to be a bit flamboyant and over the top. I'm not really sure, but once I accepted that it wasn't going to change and that the dialogue was just like that, I actually liked the book more than I thought. So I gave it a 4 stars. If you weren't aware of the Witcher stories, there are 2 novellas set before this, and those novellas really cover the first season of the show. So if you jump into this, there will be potential spoilers for particular characters in the show and how they cross paths and stuff. So naturally, because it's a multiple perspective story, we're going to expect a character or 2 to be involved, because what is the point of having multiple characters if they can't interact? So you know the backstories of everybody, and now they're really mingling in this one, and I quite liked that, how it had a quest element to it and how it had a duo to it, but the duo got split up and then came back together at different points, so my enjoyment did go up and down depending on where that duo was. And I'm trying to be vague about character names and stuff so that I don't spoil anything, and I can't really talk about what is on the back of this either, otherwise it will spoil the show. So I did enjoy this. I gave it a 4. I wish the dialogue was a little bit more tense and it would go into like almost like it was a stage performance or a stage play and it was performing the show to you. So it felt over the top, like I said. So it docked a little bit of my enjoyment, but I still overall liked this. I like the way that the plot is going. I like the world building and the characters. So I'm very intrigued to continue, and I was really worried that I would give this like a 3 stars or a 2 stars and I wouldn't like the books, but that has turned out to be a 180 for me. I'm really enjoying this series, so I'm really looking forward to continuing. And honestly, I didn't expect to after not loving the second collection of novellas. I'm really happy that I liked this enough to continue, because The Witcher is going to be one of those series that is massive in fantasy, and I'm so happy that I'm on the bandwagon for it. And now those are the books that I have finished, and now we're into the books that I'm currently reading. I embarrassingly am still currently reading the third Age of Madness book by Joe Abercrombie. It's awesome, it's very detailed, but it's just not grabbing me, and I don't know why. I think it's a combination of how I'm unable to listen to audiobooks as fully as possible, and that's kind of changed with my situation, my work commute and stuff, so I'm listening to them a lot less and it makes me sad, but I'm not getting captured by this audiobook. It's one of those books that you've got to sit down and smash out several hours of. It's really hard to capture it in just like 30 or 40 minute grabs if you're on a lunch break, for example, so I think that's why I'm struggling with it, and it's doing a lot of build up. So the way that the trilogy is set up, it's like it's split into different parts rather than different collections. So what I mean by that is there's part 1, 2 and 3 in the first book, 4, 5 and 6 in the second, and then 7, 8 and 9 in the third book. So because of the way that it stretches so far across each book without like having conclusions to each section, it's building up a lot over a long span. So I'm hoping that in the last half to the end of this book, it's going to absolutely explode, because it's had 2 books of all this political build up to now. So I'm hoping that it's going to be an amazing ending, but honestly, it's really not. It is interesting, but it's not grabbing me. So it's still being slow in the way it's setting stuff up, and I'm liking it, but it's just, I wish it was more tense. I wish I could spend more time on it, and I haven't been able to do that. So it's not one that is massively motivating for me at the moment, unfortunately. And then after looking back at my October TBR video, I also put Magic Bites on my TBR, and I just haven't got to that at all. And we're in the last week of October, which is why I'm filming this. So that's a bit of a write-off. I might revisit it in December if I get time, but we'll see. And then the last book that I want to talk about in this reading wrap-up is Empire of the Vampire by J. Kristoff. This is a 750-page behemoth, and I'm about 200 pages in so far, and at the moment it's supposed to be a vampire apocalypse story set in a fantasy world with a character that's very bitter and jaded named Gabriel, and he's looking back at his life and he's chronicling it to somebody. So at the moment he's in his 30s, I think he's 35, and he's looking back at his entire life, and the way that it's narrated, he's literally telling you everything. So I feel a little bit removed from the story, because he's literally telling you, the reader, what happens, and there's dialogue quotes in every single paragraph. It's a bit off-putting to me, and then also there are significant moments with this character and I already feel removed, and then he's kind of like an edgelord. He's very frustrating to read from, and the world building is interesting, but the writing style is just very pretentious, and I think for these kinds of reasons, the pretentious writing and the snark, I loved Nevernight. If I read it now, I don't think I would like it as much. And I think this is just like Nevernight, but in an adult book with more swearing and blood and vampires. It's not really selling me yet. I've heard that the middle is great and there's a little bit at the end that's incredible, and the rest of it is just a bit of a slog, and I'm finding it very much of a slog. So unfortunately, I'm not really loving this so far. If you asked me what my rating would be now, I'd probably give it a 2 stars, which is pretty unfortunate. And so I hope that I can get through this because it's dragging me down a little bit, but I've committed to a spoiler vlog, and so I'm not going to DNF it because I want to get it done so that I have a fully fleshed out opinion. So I guess that is the end of this reading wrap up on a bit of a frustrating note, but if you've read any of these or if you have any of these on your TBR, I would be very interested in knowing. But thank you again so much for watching this video. I'll come chat to you down in the comments, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.